knowledge being spread. It's like warm butter across the bread. Smooth, I know you like that. Flow with the grain and don't fight that. You want righteous love, you found the right match. With Marty McFly, they on the right track. Yeah, gotta dig the dirt to plant the seed. Spread roots till you sprout like a tree. Doni Jones, she the one you wanna see. Doni Jones Live, this is where you wanna be. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Hey, welcome to Doni Jones Live. I am Doni, the tree lady, and usually I am hanging out with that guy, but today on this show, we have an amazing guest. You know, I'm always trying to bring you people in the community that are doing good things, building a beautiful life, becoming successful, and basically just sharing the energy of entrepreneurship, which I think is so important in our community. And a few years ago, actually a couple of years ago, I was being interviewed by a company here in Atlanta, Georgia. And at the same time, they were interviewing another gentleman. They were setting up to interview another gentleman who had an extremely interesting business, and he just had such a bright personality and such a positive spirit. I said, you know what, I got to get to know you. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to get to know this wonderful gentleman who's got an amazing business right here in beautiful East Point, Georgia. I'm talking about Henry Adelier with Kupcakerie. And thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, I gotta ask, Henry, how does one get into making cupcakes? Which I shouldn't be eating any, but y'all got a gluten-free one that's good for me, so I'm happy about that. How do you do that?
Funny you should ask. People ask that question so often.
Yeah.
So basically, my wife started experimenting with cupcakes probably around, let's say 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
At the time, I had a DJing company, so I was really just trying to use some of the expertise I had in business to help her start her own company. Long story short, she kind of fell out of fell out of love with the cupcake business. So it kind of just fizzled out for a couple of years. But I was reading the Steve Jobs biography after he passed. And I was actually doing a post-bac, getting ready to go to medical school. And after reading the book, like, I felt like I just had to do some sort of business.
Yeah.
A little backstory, in high school, I was doing an engineering path at Westlake under Georgia Tech. But I had a teacher that was really about black business. I never even thought about business ever before until that class. So by the end of the class, I wanted to start a business, and I actually wanted to open a McDonald's franchise. So I kind of changed my path from engineering, and I was gonna go to this pharmacy program at UGA. Because I felt like I could get the money to open a franchise faster doing that route. So in my mind, I always had, or from that time, I had like a sense that I wanted to open some sort of food
business.
company.
Okay. So did you originally have I know it sounds like you got your interest was piqued in being entrepreneurship, but your wife was the one that kind of led you down the avenue for cupcakes.
Correct.
Now, what was it about the Steve Jobs book that said, okay, well, we should hone in on this as opposed to some other small business?
So, that's a great question. So,
I tried.
After reading it, I would say there wasn't a particular business that I was leaning towards.
Okay.
But I was like, I have to start something. Like if you read the book, you can't leave without thinking you got to do something. It was that like inspirational, especially the background he came from. He was adopted. It wasn't like, he was a trust fund baby or anything.
Right. And I think people mistake that. They really do. And we're going to talk a little bit more about your background because I think it's so intriguing, but it's also kind of the blueprint for why people from various backgrounds come to this country and become successful. Whereas people that are here are like, well, woe is me and systemic racism and all that kind of stuff, which that stuff is real.
It is.
But it also comes back to mindset and what you put into your mind.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So for you, getting into the cupcake business was more of a form of, okay, my wife kind of exposed this to me.
Yes.
I have this interest in business. I kind of already have a background in it because I'm assuming you helped her a bit.
Yeah.
So let me jump off and do this, right?
That's literally, that's actually funny. Like, are you a psychic? Or? But that's literally how it was.
I read patterns.
I see. So we were, again, like I was like, okay, so I want to start something. And then I was thinking back, this was like in 2014, 2015. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, a couple years ago we were talking about this cupcake thing.
Yeah.
Let's try to make it happen. And then, you know, I have an interest in entrepreneurship, like, well, entrepreneurs and like helping them
Absolutely.
get to where they want to be. So I wanted to do a coffee shop, like, because, you know, coffee shops where entrepreneurs
hot,
come.
yeah.
They, you know, bounce ideas off each other, get a lot of work done. So we put the two ideas together, the cupcake shop with the coffee shop. And
So
then
did you guys have this spot that we're in right now? By the way, I want to mention once again that we are in East Point, Georgia. You're listening to Doni Jones Live. I'm here with Henry, the owner of Kupcakerie in East Point. But how did you wind up at this location, picking this community?
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I love this community, and I've seen an explosion
Oh, yeah,
of
absolutely.
businesses in this area, and I've seen the community actually kind of change demographics.
It has.
So was that intentional, or tell us how you wound up here?
So originally, I was working in Norcross, and one of my co-workers, older gentleman, he had a lot of money saved up. Funny, he always bragged about how much money he had saved up. He's like, oh, if you ever want to open a business, I'm going to invest in you, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So there was a place we were about to sign a lease on in actually Cumming, Georgia, which is closer to Norcross. So me, or this gentleman and I, we met at Starbucks. I gave him the pitch and everything. And, you know, I was like, all right, I'm ready to sign this lease. Like, let's go. And you know how people talk a good talk until they're like, oh,
So
you really
I feel
thought
like
I
we're
was
getting ready to go, wah, wah, wah,
Yes,
wah.
so he pulled out, but not to be deterred. Funny, it's coming to another book. So I was reading a book about Kupcakerie, the founder of Chick-fil-A.
Yep, I've read that book.
Yes, and he was talking about how this book called Think and Grow Rich.
Another book that I've talked about on this.
took him.
Can I pause for a second?
yes.
Okay, guys, this is the reason why we do this show. And I know that for those of you that are new to the show, me and Marty talk about this type of thing literally on every show, and we'll throw nuggets out, you know. But I really believe that this is the direction that we want to go, because there's things that have made him successful, there's things that have made me successful, and other people successful. But what the thread that almost always runs through it is, you know, mindset.
Yes.
And then certain books. What are you putting in your brain? And one of the core ones is Think and Grow Rich.
Yes, absolutely.
Think and Grow Rich, the power of positive thinking, the magic of thinking big. If you're doing new stuff, Crush It with Gary Vaynerchuk, Steve Jobs' life, Kupcakerie's life. And a lot of people come back and go, well, you know, some of those people may have been racist, you know, whatever. I'm like, if you teach somebody to ride a bike, even if you're racist, even if they're racist and they teach you to ride a bike, you're going to learn how to ride the bike.
Absolutely.
So I think that goes back to seeing what you wanted, realizing that it's important to put good stuff in your brain,
Absolutely.
taking that stuff and then acting on it and then manifesting your dreams.
Absolutely.
That's actually the pattern to getting what you
It
want.
is.
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just
No,
felt
you're
like
good.
we needed that. What you were reading, you had an interest, you had a desire, which led you down this path. And even when you hit a brick wall, you used the term, you weren't deterred.
Deterred.
You used the term, you weren't deterred. That's important. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
Finish what
so,
you were
and
saying.
even funny with that book, my dad just had it laying around.
Yeah.
If you ever meet my dad, he just has random stuff at home. So I picked up the Kupcakerie book.
Yeah.
And if you know the history of
Highly
Chick-fil-A,
amazing.
they actually started as the Dwarf House, which was actually closer to Waffle House in makeup than a Chick-fil-A. And he was running that for about 20 years. And then he read Think and Grow Rich. He was about 40 when he started Chick-fil-A.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yes, I did, because I read it in the book.
So
Yeah.
the way he talked about the book, I was like, oh, I need to read that. Like,
Yeah.
if you were doing this for 20 years,
Yeah.
stopped and started Chick-fil-A from
Yeah.
it. So, but in the book, it forces you to like get started wherever you
Yes.
are, not be deterred. So when the guy pulled out, we were like, okay, we got to find something else
Yeah.
to do. So we actually just started online, just doing deliveries,
Yeah.
baking out of our apartment because we didn't have the money to do
Yeah.
a storefront. So we did that for about 2 years. And in the meantime, we were trying to find places that we could.
Now, were you just doing the cupcakes, or were you doing anything else while you were?
So just the cupcakes.
Okay.
Cupcakes, cakes. We started doing cake pops and whatnot.
Nice.
We couldn't do like coffee or anything because it was just out of our house.
Yeah.
So we were looking for places, the places you would think you'll find a cupcake, like Buckhead, Midtown, that sort of thing. Of course, everything's ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
So I grew up in East Point, and we lived in Brookhaven, but I would always drive on Main Street just so I wanted to get on the highway.
Yeah.
So we kept passing this space for lease, and then I was like, East Point, never.
Right. Really?
So we kept passing it. One day, like I was at the light, like right here in front of it. I was like, you know what? Let me get out and look in this space. And it was vacant for a while. So I looked in, I was like, oh, this place is actually pretty nice. Like, it got exposed brick and hardwood floors and ductwork and all that. It's like, so why is this empty?
Yeah.
So I contacted the landlord. He let me see it. My wife couldn't really see because it had it was an old salon. It had like the nail chair and all that still in it. But I was like, this might work.
This might work. And hold that thought right there, because we're going to take a break. But the reason why I'm letting you really get into this is because this really is where my heart is. People always go, but how did they do it? They must have had a lot of money, and I want to start a business. I literally was online today, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I was going back and forth with somebody that's not happy with where she lives right now because of certain laws and stuff. And she's like, but I'm just stuck here and I can't move. And so I, kind of, you don't get into fights on Twitter, but anyway, I did.
Never, please.
Never, just don't do that. But I was like, if you really want to move, take your next paycheck, put some gas in your car if you have a car. If you don't, get a bus ticket. And get out of wherever it is you are. And I said, and at the bottom of it, I said, and yes, I've lived in my car before. Because what happens is people think that I want to do something, but then they don't even take the first step. And what I've noticed is that if you at least take the first step, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will start to line things up. Absolutely. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Henry and get more into his story. You're listening to Doni Jones Live. I'm Doni the Tree Lady, and that guy is still here doing what he does best too. We're going to take a quick break.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Question: have you ever thought about where you're at in the Bible? The Bible is broken down in different parts. You got the Old Testament, the prophets, you got the Gospels, and then you have the letters from Paul. Where are you at in the Bible? Are you in the garden where you're still trying to figure life out? Or do you feel like you're in that 400 years of silence, not hearing from God at all? Where are you at in the Bible? I'd love to talk about it with you at St. Mark Lutheran Church. Yep, this Sunday at 11 a.m. We are in person, and I would love to worship with you. And we start at 11 a.m. We're located at 4137 Washington Road in East Point, Georgia. Now, if you're not in the Atlanta area, you can always log on to stmarklutheranchurch.org and be a part of any of our online services. That's stmarklutheranchurch.org.
Hey, this is Doni the Tree Lady, owner of Don's Tree Service. And as a small business owner, I get asked all the time, how did you do it? Now, for those of you that don't know, I basically started a tree service with $43 and a dream right here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. Now, during my journey, I've definitely been blessed to see the mountaintop, but I've also been in some rough valleys. And in my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I share my experience. My book really is a real woman's journey to building a happy, healthy, and successful life. But I gotta be honest with you, I read self-help books and I listened to audio programs about success, and I was still having difficulty achieving success in my life until I really got a hold of certain principles that made a difference. In my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I get very real and raw about what I did to build my company, my family, and my life. So please go check out my book, From Failure to Fabulous, on Amazon, or you can go to my website, www.donijoneslive.com.
Now when the weather starts to change, the branches start to fall, who you gonna call?
Don's Tree Service.
If it's looking kinda weak and it's looking kinda bleak, who a tree specialist call?
Don's Tree Service.
If the trees in your yard are just too tall, who you gonna call?
Don's Tree Service.
Hey everybody, it's me, Wanda Smith, and I'm here with some great information. I don't know if you know, but it's hurricane season, and it's a great time for you to think about having trees removed before one fall on your home. That's something you don't want to happen. Listen, I called Don's Tree Service on a Monday. They were here in just a few days. The price was right, the staff was right, and I'm happy with everything they've done. So hey, if I were you, I would sit down with my family and talk about having trees removed before the hurricane comes and hit your home.
If you want more information about your trees, call Don's Tree Service, 770-413-8733. That's 770-413-TREE.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Welcome back to Doni Jones Live. I am Doni the Tree Lady, and I am hanging out with Henry of Kupcakerie. I was going to say his last name again, but I feel like I'm going to slaughter it, but it's Adelia?
Adelia.
Adelia. I love that. Now you got to tell me, where is that from? That ain't from New York.
Nah, it's from New York.
It ain't from Corinth, Mississippi either.
No, that's Nigerian of the Yoruba tribe. So.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very beautiful people.
Thank you.
Very beautiful people. But we were getting into your story, and the reason why I wanted you to kind of stretch that out and talk to us about it is because you are somebody that started with a dream, a thought. You did the classic steps that a lot of entrepreneurs do. You had that thought, you had a dream, you had a little experience in a particular area, you read some books, and something went off in your head, and you was like, I need to do this, and then you started putting things into action.
For sure.
So you go in to get the lease, you find out you love this place.
Yeah.
Then what?
So, ironically, there's a company in DC called And Pizza. It's very kind of trendy pizza place. So
yeah.
I read a few stories about how they got started, and the guy, one of the founders, was saying that a good way to get started without a lot of money is to go into an up and coming neighborhood as opposed to one that's more established. So I was like, well, maybe we should take that path. It'll be a little cheaper to get started. The rent will be, a little less, and you kind of just grow with the community, at least to get started.
Well, it looks like that's what you're doing.
So yeah, that's absolutely what we did. So we got the lease. My wife still wasn't convinced about it.
Now, how did you do that? Because there are people that have, like, for example, my husband and I, we work together, and I was more of the visionary when we first started. I mean, I'm still, for the most part, the visionary. I used to be in the tree care industry. I grew up in the tree care industry, and he and I weren't even together. I just went ahead and said, I want to start a tree service. I was depressed at the time, didn't want to do what I was doing. I had $43 to my name, and I said, you know what, I'm starting a tree service. I don't know how, but I'm going to. And God kind of lined it up to where things kind of fell into place. But as our company started growing, after I fell in love, there would be a lot of times where I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And he's like, I don't know about that. We should think about it, or how are we going to do that? And we would have to talk, but ultimately I'd win those conversations. So, but how did that work with your relationship?
So literally the same thing. And I'm glad you say that too, because a lot of times people don't realize how many, what's against them when they're starting a business. You really have to be steadfast in your conviction, because family, friends, spouses, a lot of people, and they have good intentions, because the failure rate of businesses is high. Yeah. But and you can let that deter you, and for a lot of people it will. But even when we were starting the business plan, she's like, oh, again, it's kind of like with the same guys, like, oh, you're serious, you really want to do
you're
this.
really serious.
So I actually ended up writing the business plan and all that just by myself initially.
But what does she say now that you guys are on the other side of it?
So yeah, now we're, it's all good and cold. In fact, I probably shouldn't even told this story because she don't want nobody to know it, but I say it for other people who are probably in the same boat. But
how did you get her to see the vision? Because once again, we do like talking about relationships, we talk about faith, we talk about entrepreneurship. If you're an entrepreneur and your partner, they're your friend, your lover, your wife, your husband, how do you get them on board?
Sometimes I feel like you just have to do it and let them see what the passion you have for, and also the fact that you are confident in pulling it off too. Because a lot of people don't know what you're capable of until you start doing it. So even with this lease, we argued about it.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I had already signed it before we.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right,
now you're telling my story.
Like, well, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like, it don't matter. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I had already done
Yeah.
it, so I was like, there's no way we can win. You can win it already because I already signed the lease.
It's so funny because when we started, I started the company and we didn't get married, or I didn't really fall in love with my husband until I was already into the business 2 or 3 years. But once we were married and seeing how important and integral he was to helping me, we're partners. We're married. We're together, right? So there would be times where he's like, well, I know you've been talking about getting another truck. Let's think about it. Let's, And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, hey, I got something to tell you. And he's like, what? I was like, look outside. He's like, that's a nice truck. What are we doing here? I was like, I got it. So sometimes you do have to just go do it.
Yeah.
And then when people see you doing it, they'll fall in line.
Yeah.
Now, what has been some of the biggest challenges for you being an entrepreneur?
So financial is always a big challenge. Staffing, especially now with everything going on with COVID and staffing shortages, pricing, those sorts of things, like things that you kind of thought you got past, 5-6 years, but now they're back. And just strategizing for growth.
What advice would you give somebody that's going through that right now? Because a lot of people have come out of COVID, and you clearly are a business that survived COVID. What advice would you give to somebody that might still be struggling in those areas?
Well, one, just stay positive and be innovative. There are always ways to get around things. I know legally always. Because illegally, it'll always come back to you. But I always say for any business owner, try to figure out the ways to get yourself out of the business. So one, of course, is staffing, which is easier said than done, but systems and processes. Because I feel like since we started doing that kind of pre-COVID, now when we're having to like ramp up hiring, it's easier to acclimate people faster than, or onboard people faster than in times past. But because we try to create the systems that allow anyone to work in the kitchen or to work up front and get them trained rapidly, that definitely helps. But innovation, automation.
How has you're talking about innovation, you're talking about putting systems in place, but a lot of people don't really know where to start. So for me, for us as a company, I had to look at where we were having our biggest issues and go, what's a better way to do this? And part of that meant sometimes we had to slow down or step back and go through the challenges of learning a new system, learning new software. If you're talking to other entrepreneurs that might be in your space or it might be a different industry, what advice would you give them if they are talking about putting systems in place? Because we talk about putting systems in place, but then people don't know how to jump through that hurdle. What does that look like?
So you do have to slow down, especially staff that's used to doing things one way are always reluctant for you to change, even if it helps them do their jobs easier and more efficiently and faster.
Preach.
So I say, for instance, we got like this new automatic scooper because we were getting a lot of big orders and we didn't necessarily have the staff to just have more people. And that was probably the biggest like pulling teeth to get people to learn how to use this thing that's supposed to help them. And then even systems as far as us getting the checklists and everything. So that took a while because we had to slow down for that because it took someone who was doing something else to come over here like, hey, we have to create these processes for everything we do.
But I'm saying, is there like, because you talk about putting systems in place, and I know for each industry it's different, but are there certain guidelines or certain types of things that you expose yourself to help you put in systems?
So getting advice from other entrepreneurs for sure. There is a book I recommend. See, we're going back to books.
I know.
It's
I
called,
was leading you that way.
So one of my friends, shameless plug at Just That Honey, Jermel Shelton, one of the owners or founders, he put me on a book called The E-Myth.
One of my favorites.
See, and that's why she's so successful.
You know, that is literally one of my favorites.
So that is a book I recommend. You can just get the audio book, which is what I did, $15-20.
Yeah.
It will guide you towards getting those processes and systems in place. Because as a business owner, you don't want to wear yourself out.
And actually, one of the people that he uses as an example is a bakery.
Yes, it is. A pie company. Yes,
it's a pie company.
That's funny you say that, yes.
But seriously, guys, even just listen to this podcast. You've given people four significant books that they can read right now. So if you're going through challenges right now, or you're not where you want to be, or maybe you're already where you want to be as far as a business, but you want to see yourself grow, you really need to jump on some of this information. For example, reading Steve Jobs' autobiography, reading the book by Kupcakerie, reading Think and Grow Rich, and especially reading the E-Myth, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that never take it to that next step. They always stay the operator and not the business owner, which brings me to another book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yes. That was the first of, that was one I read in high school as a...
Hi, Kylie Jones and Megan Jones.
In
high school.
So when I was saying had teachers who were steering us towards starting black-owned businesses, that was one of the books they recommended, which really kind of changes your perspective on what business is and what type of life you can live and what type of influence you can have as well. So.
Awesome. Well, how can people get in contact with you? Because we haven't went over that. I want people to come support your business. Once again, we're talking to Henry with Kupcakerie in beautiful East Point, Georgia.
Absolutely.
Tell people where to find you online and here.
So we're online at kupcakerie.com. That's Kupcakerie. You can contact us by phone, 404-975-3751. You can stop in 2781 Main Street in East Point, Georgia. We're actually about to open a new location in Grant Park in about a month or so. And we do deliver, so we come to you as well. So you can order online or Uber Eats or anything. We have our in-house delivery system as well as third party as well. So.
Awesome. Well, you guys definitely support this gentleman. We're going to come back and get a little bit more into your story, because now we know who you are as a business. We understand your business, or we know what your business is, but I want to really get into who you are as a person and how these mindset shifts were able to help you become so successful. Once again, I'm Doni the Tree Lady here with Henry from Kupcakerie. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All right.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
When it falls, there's only one tree company to call. That's Don's Tree Service. Call them at 770-413-TREE. That's 770-413-8733.
I looked out the window after the storm and found out that there was a tree that had fallen, so I needed somebody quickly. Made one phone call. The appointment was made. They got the tree down. They do full service cleanup so that it looked like nothing had been done at all. Don's Tree Service did an awesome job for me, and I would recommend them highly.
Hey guys, I'm Doni the Tree Lady, owner of Don's Tree Service. We are an Atlanta-based tree service serving all of Metro Atlanta. And you know what? We proudly serve the underserved. And not only that, when we cut down your trees, we don't charge extra for cleaning up. So give us a call at 770-413-8733. That's 770-413-TREE.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I am that guy, Marty McFly, and also known as Pastor Marty Ringer, pastor of St. Mark Lutheran Church in beautiful East Point, Georgia. And right now, I just want to invite you to come worship with us. Yeah, we're back worshiping in person. Now, you can always check out any of our other services online at stmarklutheranchurch.org. That's stmarklutheranchurch.org. But I would like to see you face to face. So join us this Sunday at 11 a.m. That's 4137 Washington Road in East Point. It's right off exit 1 on 285. Come worship with me and the whole St. Mark family this Sunday starting at 11 a.m. 4137 Washington Road in East Point.
Hey, this is Doni the Tree Lady, owner of Don's Tree Service. And as a small business owner, I get asked all the time, how did you do it? Now, for those of you that don't know, I basically started a tree service with $43 and a dream right here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. Now, during my journey, I've definitely been blessed to see the mountaintop, but I've also been in some rough valleys. And in my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I share my experience. My book really is a real woman's journey to building a happy, healthy, and successful life. But I gotta be honest with you, I read self-help books and I listened to audio programs about success, and I was still having difficulty achieving success in my life until I really got a hold of certain principles that made a difference. In my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I get very real and raw about what I did to build my company, my family, and my life. So please go check out my book, From Failure to Fabulous, on Amazon, or you can go to my website, www.DoniJonesLive.com.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Welcome back to Doni Jones Live. I am Doni the Tree Lady here with Mr. Henry Adelier from Kupcakerie in beautiful East Point, Georgia. Please tell me I got that name almost right.
You did. I was going to say, you're getting better and better.
Well, you know, I have my moments. But, you know, before we got on camera, we were talking about where you're from and how you grew up and everything. But I really think people need to understand that, because we live in a day and age right now where people really are looking in the mirror going, I can't do this, or systemic racism that, or I'm a woman this, or they didn't let me that, or I was abused as a kid this. And instead of using those things as fuel to get out of the situation, they use it as an excuse. And so without being too harsh on my own community, if you can explain what you see, why so many people from other countries, specifically, you know, Africa, Asia, or whatever, can come over here, get an idea, go through the ups and downs, and then build a successful business. What do you think are the differences?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mindset thing. And I will say there are, not to use it as an excuse, but since we come from different cultures, and the background of growing up a certain way can affect you negatively or positively. And especially coming to America, there's such a, like the clock is ticking and people are expecting you to do great things, and it's a huge sacrifice. So you don't want to come here and not be greater than you would have where you were at. So I know that sort of mindset is instilled in us like from a very young age, and kids are impressionable, so you do have to start young. And the expectations are extremely high. Like we
very
talked about,
high.
You always is either doctor, lawyer, engineer. Is never. I mean, it can be a good profession, but maybe not as prestigious. Like if I was a teacher, they probably would have been like, no, you can't be a teacher. Like, so.
And being a teacher is a great profession, by the way.
That's what I'm saying, so.
What I'm trying to do is give you guys an idea of why, because people want to demonize people that come over to this country, work really hard, you know, live with nothing for a long time, and all of a sudden, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, they're putting their kids in the best schools, they're living in the best communities, they have thriving businesses, but we don't want to account for the sacrifices they made. But it also goes back to what you were saying, high expectations. And right now, a lot of times, especially in our community, and I know a lot of people listen to this show from different diverse backgrounds, but a lot of times in the black community, if we get out, get a decent job, you know, in a car, it's like, oh, you done something. Whereas that's not enough. That's not the bar. You know what I mean? The bar is, what are you putting out in the world? What have you built? Have you built something that will last to the next generation?
Exactly.
And we can start that today. We don't have to keep leaning on, well, we're children of slaves. Okay. But there's books now, and there's Google now. So what would you say to that?
So even with that, you think about, and I hate to bring like different cultures and races, but you think about, like,
but that's what I'm talking
Jewish
about.
People, Holocaust. So if they can turn that around and you see what they do, why can't we?
That's right. Why can't we?
So, and people do use crutches to kind of help make themselves feel better about where they are, or make it seem like it's outside of their control. But everything is within your power. You just gotta one, have the high expectations of yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so what would you say to I'm going to play devil's advocate right now. You say everything is within your power, right? I come to you and say, but you don't understand. I was abused as a kid, and I don't have a good job, and I work at Walmart, and I'm a single mom with 2 kids. What would you say to me then?
So I'll say, one, we started this. I already told you we didn't have any money. Let me reiterate that. I had no money and no one to get money from.
Yeah.
So we started where we were in our apartment, not a house. We didn't even have a house. We had an apartment. So it's all about seeing where you want to be. It's another book, 7 Habits.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Highly effective people.
Yeah.
So
I think there is a highly successful one also too.
Okay,
I think there's a series. Yeah.
So it's called Begin with the End in Mind.
That's
so
another.
You think about the end, where you want to be, and you just gotta figure out the steps to get there, even if it's the baby steps.
Yeah.
Like for us, again, we just baked. We started where we were. We got a space that probably wasn't the ideal space we were thinking about, but it was a place we could afford.
Yeah.
It was already built out, so we didn't have to do construction costs. All we had to do was plumbing for the kitchen.
Yeah.
Honestly, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing, but we figured it out as we went on. My wife started researching the people who started Georgetown Cupcakes and, different baking strategies and, do you take it out at this time or that time? How much do you whip the frosting?
Yeah.
So everything we put into the business, we kind of just learned from people who did it, even though we didn't know them. They weren't in our circle, but everyone, especially now, internet,
I was going to say,
everyone's at your disposal in some sort of
everybody
way.
is at your disposal. And so when people go, well, I can't do this, the first thing I say is, did you Google it? Did you go to YouTube? And that doesn't mean that the very first video or information or article that pops up is going to be the answer, but it's a start.
Yeah.
How many people have you talked to? Have you looked at other businesses that are in the industry that you want to get in? There's so much opportunity right now, but it comes back down to mindset.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about, I guess thinking about it, which basically goes down to visualization. Visualizing where you want to be, and starting right where you are. You didn't start at this beautiful place. You started in your apartment. Now, how did you come up with the name Kupcakerie with a K?
So funny enough, going back to Kupcakerie again. So probably 6 books tell my whole life story.
Exactly, but for those of you that don't know, Kupcakerie is the owner or was the founder of Chick-fil-A. Go ahead.
So in the book, he talked about why they spelled Chick-fil-A the way they do, and I guess a friend of his who was a intellectual property trademark law. It's well, if you want to get your name trademarked, you can't spell it the normal way. You have to change the spelling of it.
I need to change Don's Tree Service. No.
We saw, because originally Kupcakerie with a C and ended with a Y. I was well, if we want to get it trademarked, we got to change the spelling of it. So we literally floated some different spellings around. So we changed the K, did IE instead of a Y, but literally from reading that, so we can get the trademark, we can get the URL.
Once again, going back to reading, literally, who told me this? It rings in my head, and I don't remember who told me this, but somebody said to me, everything you need to know is in a book. Everything you need to know is in a book. And sometimes, even if you don't know what book that is, you can Google it. Or ask somebody, I've literally asked strangers for advice. I'll see somebody driving we happened with a truck. I was at a job site and I saw another tree service not far, right up the street from ours. And they had a certain type of machinery. I'd never really invested in a Takahouchi. I always wanted a New Holland, which is a type of skid loader. Saw another company using it. Saw another company. It's a skid loader, but one's a Takahouchi and one's New Holland. Okay. So I didn't know much about that particular machine. So I went to a tree service that I didn't even know. They could be perceived as my competition. And I said, hey, what do you like about that machine? And literally a year later, I bought one. So doing little things like that, reading books, asking for advice, those are all things that can help people get on their path to becoming successful.
Absolutely.
What would you say is the ingredient for you guys becoming successful, or as successful as you've become?
Well, one, I feel like I'm never successful, which is probably an ingredient to be successful. Always
like that.
feeling like you got to move forward and do the next thing. But I'll say our commitment to quality is one. There's been times where we just didn't have a flavor for a while because we had to remake it 3 times, as opposed to putting it out there low quality. And I'll say our commitment to doing the necessary work, like showing up. And
showing up is half the battle.
Showing up is half the battle.
It really
sometimes
is.
it's hard to show up, but we always show up. And then commitment to just trying to hire quality people and treating them well so they can continue to represent your brand even when you're not there. So I'll say those are probably probably the 3 biggest things we do.
Okay.
So, quality, people, and showing up.
It's showing up. Well, speaking of showing up, it sounds like you've got, you mentioned that you have another location opening up.
Yes.
When is that one opening up?
So we're hoping.
So we can show up to support you.
Yes. So we're hoping to open up probably early to mid-August. So it's at the final stages. It's going to be in Grant Park on Memorial Drive, right next to the Atlanta Dairies.
Oh my goodness!
Grindhouse Killer Burgers is going to be our neighbor.
Okay, we got to come back and interview you again.
Yes,
I'm telling you, that's amazing. That is such a great area.
Yeah, it is.
Another one of those up and coming areas. So you're once again taking a situation where you learned to get in communities that are up and coming. You can get in there. Hopefully, I mean that's kind of become an expensive area, but I hope you're able to get able to get in there. You know. Now, was that strategic for that area, or did they come to you, or how did you?
So we were looking. Before the pandemic, there's a website called Curb, which kind of goes through Atlanta development.
Okay.
So in following that website, I kind of saw where the next stage of growth was going to be in Atlanta, and I was like, I got to get in there. So it was a strategic move. In trying to get to a place that I knew was booming, but didn't necessarily have the competition that would kind of deter us. So that's why we chose Grant Park.
Okay. Well, we're going to support you big time. So we're going to support you here in East Point, and we're going to support you in Grant Park too. But right now we got to support this station. So we're going to take a quick break. My name is Doni. I'm Doni the Tree Lady. You're watching Doni Jones Live. We are Henry. We are here with Henry from Kupcakerie. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Question: have you ever thought about where you're at in the Bible? You know, the Bible is broken down in different parts. You got the Old Testament, the prophets, you got the Gospels, and then you have the letters from Paul. Where are you at in the Bible? You know, are you in the garden where you're still trying to figure life out? Or do you feel like you're in that 400 years of silence, not hearing from God at all? Where are you at in the Bible? I'd love to talk about it with you at St. Mark Lutheran Church. Yep, this Sunday at 11 a.m. We are in person, and I would love to worship with you. And we start at 11 a.m. We're located at 4137 Washington Road in East Point, Georgia. Now, if you're not in the Atlanta area, you can always log on to stmarklutheranchurch.org and be a part of any of our online services. That's stmarklutheranchurch.org.
Hey, this is Doni the Tree Lady, owner of Don's Tree Service. And as a small business owner, I get asked all the time, how did you do it? Now, for those of you that don't know, I basically started a tree service with $43 and a dream right here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. Now, during my journey, I've definitely been blessed to see the mountaintop, but I've also been in some rough valleys. And in my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I share my experience. My book really is a real woman's journey to building a happy, healthy, and successful life. But I got to be honest with you. I read self-help books and I listened to audio programs about success, and I was still having difficulty achieving success in my life until I really got a hold of certain principles that made a difference. In my book, From Failure to Fabulous, I get very real and raw about what I did to build my company, my family, and my life. So please go check out my book, From Failure to Fabulous, on Amazon, or you can go to my website, www.donijoneslive.com.
Now when the weather starts to change, the rents start to fall, who you gonna call?
Don's Tree Service.
If it's looking kinda weak and it's looking kinda bleak, for a tree specialist call.
Don's Tree
If
Service.
the trees in your yard are just too tall, who you gonna call?
Don's Tree Service.
Hey everybody, it's me, Wanda Smith, and I'm here with some great information. I don't know if you know, but it's hurricane season, and it's a great time for you to think about having trees removed before one falls on your home. That's something you don't want to happen. Listen, I called Don's Tree Service on a Monday. They were here in just a few days. The price was right, the staff was right, and I'm happy with everything they've done. So hey, if I were you, I would sit down with my family and talk about having trees removed before the hurricane comes and hit your home.
If you want more information about your trees, call Don's Tree Service, 770-413-8733. That's 770-413-TREE.
It's Donnie Jones Live, Donnie Jones Live. It's Donnie Jones Live, Donnie Jones Live. It's Donnie Jones Live, Donnie Jones Live.
Welcome back to Doni Jones Live. I'm Donnie the Tree Lady, and we are here with Henry from Kupcakerie here in beautiful East Point, Georgia, talking about his amazing business him and his wife own that just doing awesome things and making me fatter, you know. But I'm gonna try to be a good girl. They got like I said, they got a gluten-free one. But tell us what's going on right now with the Kupcakerie. What any specials going on? How, you know?
Oh yeah,
people want to support you.
Yeah, we're always doing. So every month we have a monthly flavor. So this month we were doing a cherry Coke flavor cupcake.
Okay.
So we had cherry pie filling with actually a Coca-Cola buttercream. I know next month we're doing a champagne with a orange meringue frosting. We're always doing different barista drinks as well. So we're a full-blown coffee shop, specialty coffee.
And I'm glad you said that because I really didn't focus too much on that because I was focused on some cupcakes.
No, you're good.
I ain't supposed to be eating gluten, so I'm focused on cupcakes. But no, seriously, you guys don't just do cupcakes.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the people more about, what you do.
Yes.
And even this space.
Mm-hmm,
Tell the people about the space.
So we have an event space. So relatively affordable, so people can come in and get a nice quality, safe space for a good price. We're right in the community, but we do baby showers, a lot of pop-up shops, so aspiring entrepreneurs looking to have a space to do something without committing to the lease of a brick and mortar. We've done like film debuts, screenings, just a little bit of everything. So we try to, in addition to the cupcakes and the coffee, we like to be an environment to help foster community and creativity. We also have like a meeting room with a whiteboard and a TV. So if you want to have that private meeting,
have my company meeting there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we try to be kind of like a co-working space.
Yeah.
So a little step above a coffee shop, but to help drive more creativity than you can just at like a Starbucks or something.
Well, I know you mentioned earlier that your family had aspirations for you either to be an engineer or a doctor, but I gotta assume that they're kind of proud of you now.
Oh yeah, they are.
Look at that smile.
Finally. So yeah, it took a while, but they definitely weren't on the train to begin with. I can say that for sure.
So what was that conversation like when you told your parents you wanted to? Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this, guys, because we may have glossed over it real quickly, but you're originally from Nigeria, right?
Nigeria.
So your background is Nigerian. Your parents are immigrants. They come to this country. They raise you and expecting you to go to Georgia Tech and or Georgia, and you decide you want to sell cupcakes. How did that conversation go?
It wasn't an easy conversation, and I didn't necessarily leave the conversation in a good space. So I'll say it was similar to the one my wife and I had. It was kind of like, okay, if you want to do this, you just got to do it. Like, even if no one is, I hate to say no one's with you because that's not the case, but even if they don't 100% want you to go in that direction. Right. And that's kind of how I left it, and it was like, all right, just do it you want to do. And funny enough, even after the conversation, like, oh yeah, you can still go to medical school after. It was never like, oh, okay, yeah,
oh my God.
I'm glad you're choosing.
So even though you're being successful, they're like, you can still go to medical school. Okay, but see, that makes me feel like it's more like sometimes it's ego with the parents, so they can go, well, my son is Dr.
Oh yeah, that's all it is.
Or my, or my daughter is, an engineer at whatever.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm loving what you're doing.
Yes.
I love what you're putting out in in the community. I do want to ask you about your foundation, meaning, what drives you every day to do what you do? For me, it's my family, it's my faith, to be able to get over issues that might come against me. I fall back on that a lot. The spiritual aspect of being an entrepreneur. For you, what is it that drives you and keeps you going?
So my family, first and foremost, faith, and just trying to help deserving people reach the next level.
Yeah.
So the way we're trying to scale, we're actually helping people open their own shops, their own cupcakeries.
No way. Are you gonna franchise it?
Yeah, so that's how we're. So
Okay,
sort of
see, now we getting into that. That's a whole nother segment. Sorry about that.
No, you're
Go
good.
ahead.
So, and even the way we're doing it, I keep going back to Chick-fil-A, but I'm from East Point. Chick-fil-A is in Hayesville.
I mean, yeah.
So if you weren't aware, the way they franchise, they take, they actually put the money up for people to open their own Chick-fil-A, and then it helps people who may not have been able to have $1 million to open a McDonald's to become entrepreneurs. So we're doing the same thing. So
That's amazing.
Even the Grant Park location is going to be run by one of our staff as her own cupcakerie, and then we just split the profits.
Oh my
50-50.
gosh.
So she originally came to me, and she's like our top baker, real sweet lady. Wanted me to help her, guide her, or give her advice and guidance, because she wanted to open her own bakery. Couple months passed, and we just decided we should probably just partner. I will help you open it. In fact, I'll give you our brand.
Yeah.
We'll put the marketing behind it. We'll put the design knowledge.
Yeah.
And most importantly, the money behind it to help you open it. So that's actually how we're expanding. But it just goes back to, trying to help people who are creators or people who want to, be self-reliant.
Yeah.
And we go back to not having excuses.
Yeah.
It's okay, if somebody's doing this for you, there's no excuse for you to not have
That's
your own
true.
business. So.
But not everybody has a Henry.
True that.
To give them.
True that.
But I still believe, because before you were able to do this for her, you had to do it for yourself
For
first.
sure. Absolutely.
And I know some people might flip on that and go, well, heck yeah, if I had the money to do what he's doing, I would do it. But people have to understand, he started off without the money.
Yes.
He started off without,
and even
resources.
when we opened, our account was on zero. But
I've had negative, not just zero.
But yeah, we started, man, when I tell you we didn't have any money,
Yeah.
our refrigerator was one, not the commercial one from Lowe's that we just went and got. It was rough.
Yeah, but you look at you're on the other side of it, and that's something to be very, very, very proud of. Now, I didn't hear you may have mentioned your social media. Do you do a lot with social media?
Yeah, so we're on everything. TikTok. Do people still use Snapchat? We're on it. I don't know if people still use it.
Do people use Snapchat? I feel like people use Snapchat, but it's it's back
Different
to being
use cases.
Yeah. I think for a while it tried to go mainstream, and maybe it is. Maybe we are. I'm older than you are, but I don't know. Snapchat maybe, but I definitely know TikTok is hot.
We're on Facebook, Instagram, which are our main two for sure. TikTok, Snapchat, even Tumblr.
Yeah.
So we're on all the channels.
Now, is that what has driven most of your growth, is social media, or what's been driving your growth?
Social media for sure. I would definitely say that's been the biggest driver of growth. Sorry to segment back to faith and spirituality as well. I just thought about it. But I'm a very religious person as well.
Yeah.
And I pray every day, and I feel like even whether it's real or not, just having that belief that things will work out from prayer kind of help move me forward, especially in times like
I'm glad you did go back to that, because that is generally what this segment is about. But I also, once again, trying to be respectful of people, because sometimes you bring that up and then people go around it, and you're in my brain, I'm going, okay, that's not really his thing, no biggie. So I go with that, but it's important. It really is important. And even more so now that you're successful, it helps keep you grounded. What does faith look like for you? Do you have a certain practice? Do you have a meditation? Do you have church you go to? What do you do?
Yeah, so we're Catholic. We go to church pretty much every Sunday. But I'll say the biggest thing is the meditation. Like
Yeah.
I try to, if I don't pass out when I get home, but before I go to bed, I do try to just meditate, reflect
Yeah.
on the day, and just think of, well, one, ask
Yeah.
God to like see you through things
Absolutely.
and help you get through
Yeah.
the turmoil,
Yeah.
which ironically for this, I'll say this has probably been the hardest year
Yeah.
in business we've had. And he's helped kind of get us through it, and we're starting to get to the other side.
Well,
so to
I
speak.
always believe that God will help you get through whatever you're going through. And I'm glad you did bring that up, because I feel like, and I'll try not to get too long-winded here, but I feel like there is this push now to separate people of color from their foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And for us as a long time in this country, and as immigrants that came to this country, immigrants that come to this country and black people that were brought to this country in slavery, faith was always a big thing for us. Always. And I think this last generation and the generation after have gotten into this mindset that, oh, we don't need God. And
Yeah.
my thing is, I don't care what you call it.
I agree
It
wholeheartedly
is
with you.
real. You know, you may not understand it. You may think it's airy-fairy stuff, whatever. You got to have some type of spiritual practice. If you want to call it yoga, meditation, whatever, there is a higher power, an energy, a source that you can connect with to get you through whatever you're going through. And when people don't have that foundation, I really believe that you start to see a lot of what's going on in the world right now.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like as people of color, and I'm married to a white guy, so I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but I really feel like people of color need to just cut the cord right now with whatever modern rhetoric there is going on and get back to our foundation of faith, whatever that looks like for you. So, but I didn't mean to take that.
No, you're good.
That's
and I
just
feel
a big
like
one
that
for you.
also helps people too who may feel like they don't have all the tools necessary.
Yeah.
We're going back to that part as well. Just have faith.
Yeah.
Just have faith, and that will pull you through. It'll give you the things you need to, what they call it, jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down.
That's right.
But that's all faith.
That is all faith. And actually, I think that's about how we should wrap it up. Because it really is all about faith, you know? So if you're out there right now and this is in any way, shape, inspired you or encouraged you, let us know. Call us at 1-888-349-DONNIE, 1-888-349-DONI, or hit us up on social media. Leave a comment on YouTube, because you can see the show on YouTube if you go to Doni Jones Live. That's DONI, Doni Jones Live. You'll see a rendition of the show. Thank you so much, Henry, for being on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having
And we
me.
do want to catch up to him at his new location. Once again, I'm Doni the Tree Lady. This is Henry with Kupcakerie in beautiful East Point, Georgia. Kupcakerie is spelled with a K. Look them up, and we will see you next week. See ya.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live.
Question: have you ever thought about where you're at in the Bible? You know, the Bible is broken down in different parts. You got the Old Testament, the prophets, you got the Gospels, and then you have the letters from Paul. Where are you at in the Bible? You know, are you in the garden where you're still trying to figure life out? Or do you feel like you're in that 400 years of silence, not hearing from God at all? Where are you at in the Bible? I'd love to talk about it with you at St. Mark Lutheran Church. Yep, this Sunday at 11 a.m. We are in person, and I would love to worship with you. And we start at 11 a.m. We're located at 4137 Washington Road in East Point, Georgia. Now, if you're not in the Atlanta area, you can always log on to stmarklutheranchurch.org and be a part of any of our online services. That's stmarklutheranchurch.org.
Hey everybody, it's me, Wanda Smith, and I'm here with some great information. Listen, I called Don's Tree Service on a Monday. They were here in just a few days. The price was right, the staff was right, and I'm happy with everything they've done. So hey, if I were you, I would sit down with my family and talk about having trees removed before the hurricane comes and hit your home.
If you want more information about your trees, call Don's Tree Service, 770-413-8733. That's 770-413-TREE.
It's Doni Jones Live, Doni Jones Live. Donnie Jones Live, Donnie Jones Live. It's Donnie Jones Live, Donnie Jones